Okay, good evening, everybody, and I'm really, thank you for all the people who are willing to come in this late at night, and we particularly thankful for Dr. Som Sohoni coming in from United States. So it's the morning for them, and a few other people who are from around the world are here with us, who are associate editors of JEET. So, so thank you all. We are today. Som will talk about reviewing and reviewing papers in engineering education, which is directly relevant to JEET and also relevant to the upcoming ICTIE conference. So it'll serve as a preparation for both of those. And obviously, some of you already are outstanding reviewers, so it'll just be a refresher for you all. But we want to use this meeting today as a launching pad for creating a strong foundation of high quality reviewers for JEET and for ICTIE, because ultimately the quality of everything that we do, the quality of the papers that go to JEET and ICTIE, Scopus indexed, we have to maintain that, and to get global recognition, we must maintain that our papers are high quality. And so each of us has a responsibility to make sure we take this seriously. And I think I'm really excited that we almost have 100 people already, 85, and I'm sure it'll go up to 100 soon. So this is exciting. So you go ahead, and somewhere towards the end, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the conference that's coming up. And so Som is a professor at Milwaukee School of Engineering. He's also the co-chief editor with me for JEET, and he's worked diligently for the last couple of years to keep up with all the demands of reviewing and editing this journal. And some of you have been here with that journey, and I want to, and Som will probably recognize them, the associate editors, when he's talking. We made them panelists, so thank you all, associate editors, for taking the time to help move this forward. This is really the foundation of excellent engineering education, is engineering education research. So thank you, everybody, and go ahead, Som.
Thanks, Krishna. I think you've already covered everything I was going to talk about. So
right.
That's a good summary. I appreciate that. So I've been part of JEET for I think about 5 years now. 2017 ICTIEE conference in Hyderabad is when Krishna asked me to talk to the people involved in JEET, and it's been a very interesting and exciting journey since then. So hopefully everyone can see the slides. Krishna, can you just confirm, please?
You can, everybody can see. Perfect.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I'll keep going then. So yep, welcome to the JEET reviewer training. I have a few slides, but I want to make it somewhat informal. It's not going to be just me talking throughout, but I think I will spend about 15-20 minutes talking, and then we can have some more interaction. Before we begin, I just want to quickly acknowledge that the original slide set here was prepared by one of our associate editors for the JEET Mentored Reviewer program, which we will talk about at the very end. So I just wanted to quickly acknowledge Teresa for sharing the material with me. And very soon, once we're done with this slide, we'll do quick introductions of the AEs who have joined us today. So briefly, this is the plan for today. We'll do some quick introductions. Then we'll talk about stakeholders in the review process, the process of reviewing. We'll take a quick look at the guidelines for reviewing papers for JEET. And then I'll walk through some actual practical things that might be useful for the review process in specific to JEET. And as I said, at the very end, I'll quickly mention the Mentored Reviewer program as well. So in terms of introductions, I think Krishna has already given a good intro for me. I'm Soham Sohoni. I got my bachelor's in India in 1998, and since then I have been in the US. I'm a professor now in computer science at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And as Krishna mentioned, I help with associate editor and I guess co-editor-in-chief duties at the Journal of Engineering Education Transformations. We also have a few of the associate editors. We've grown that pool quite a bit. We started with 3 associate editors in 2018 as the volume for papers in JEET started picking up. And soon enough, we couldn't keep up with the volume. So we now have about 25 associate editors, and I've invited a select few of them And I'll just go through the list, and hopefully they can unmute themselves and just say like 1 minute's worth of an introduction for themselves, and I'll just go alphabet, I guess, whatever order I see it here. I think Javed is at the top of my list, so let's start with Javed, if you want to just say who you are.
So your panelists, so you can unmute yourselves.
I see Javed's mic is green. Don't know why we can't.
It'll probably come in, but keep going anyway.
Okay, let's go to Rama, who is next on the list that I see here.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Krishna sir, and thank you, Soham. I'm Rama, working as an associate professor in Department of Industrial Engineering and Management, RV College of Engineering, Bangalore. I'm working as an associate editor for JEET from past 1 year, and it's been very exciting journey till now.
Oh, we seem to have lost her. Well, thank you, Rama.
And I've also been a reviewer for ICTIE, almost all the conferences that has been held. And, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Soham, for this opportunity.
And yeah, sorry, I thought you were done. So maybe there was just a lag. Sorry about that. So yeah, thanks, Rama, for joining us. Let's quickly check if Javed
yeah,
again.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible now?
Yeah, Javed, go ahead.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. Hi, everybody. I'm Javed Kittur. I'm currently at Arizona State University pursuing my PhD in engineering education. I've been associated with JEET since 2015, and since then I've been a part of different programs offered by ICTIEE, and I've been a regular reviewer for the conference and the journal.
Excellent, thanks, Javed. Next on the list is Sandhya.
Good morning, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Sandhya Das, Associate Professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, St. Joseph's Engineering College, Mangalore, Karnataka. I have been associated with IUC since 2019 and associated with JEET from the past 1 year. It's a very exciting journey with IUC, and it's a lot of opportunities and exposure that I'm exposed to, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandhya. Next is Srirang.
Hi, this is Srirang Bhatt from St. Joseph Engineering College. I am working as a professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I have been associated with the JEET for past 1 year. In fact, I have been associated with the IUC for more than 7 years, and we have never missed any ICTIE conference hosted by IUC, and it was always an eye-opener for us and a learning experience. And I expect that everybody is going to attend the upcoming ICTIE, and you're going to learn a lot. And along with this, we have been learning in the JEET journal, where we are going to understand spectrum of topics in engineering education. Thanks a lot for the opportunity provided over here as well as in the JEET. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Srirang. Next we have Teresa.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Teresa Hutting. I'm from Johannesburg in South Africa, and I've been involved with JEET for the last year, mostly with the Mentored Reviewer program. And I feel very privileged to be part of this community. It's amazing to see the commitment to engineering education research and developing reviewers and authors. So thank you very much. It's been a really exciting journey being a part of this.
Awesome. I also want to add the reason why I met Teresa and how she's on the associate editor for JEET is through the Research in Engineering Education Network. It's called REEN, And we both are on the governing board of REEN. Teresa, I believe, is the incoming president of the governing board or chairperson. I forget what it's called. So we're getting a lot of global exposure to JEET as well. And you'll see more and more associate editors and even authors from around the world instead of just being from India. Krishna, were you able to find Satyendra? I think he was also going to attend.
Okay, let's see. He might have come in since we talked. Yeah, he's here. I'll get him in.
Let's have him say a few words and we will move on from there.
Yeah, we've cost 100 for today.
Awesome. And I just updated the slides to include the AEs who are here with us today. And I also fixed Teresa's spell.
Satyendra, you can unmute yourself and say hi.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Satyendra Bhatt from St. Joseph Engineering College. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Applications. I got introduced to this JEET through the mini course on publishing and reviewing papers submitted to engineering education, which was carried out by Dr. Som Soni way back in 2016. Ever since then, I've been associated with ICTIEE and I have reviewed papers for all the conferences of ICTIEE, which is ICTIEE. And from past 1.5 years, I'm the reviewer of Journal for Engineering Education Transformations, JEET. And through JEET Mentor Reviewer Program, I have been promoted to the post of Associate Editor. And from past 4 months, I've been serving in this capacity. It has been great in this journey as I learned a lot about engineering education itself. The papers submitted here are of great value. And being an associate editor is a matter of pride to me. And I would want to thank the entire team of ICTIEE for giving me this opportunity. And today, I am sure all the people who are participating in this webinar will be greatly helped by this session by Dr. Soham. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Satyendra. And I'm glad we could get all the AEs to introduce themselves. So one of the things, and you'll see the slides, I'll spend, as I said, 10-15 minutes on the slides. But I wanted to just make sure you understand why we heard from the AEs, because a big part of being a reviewer or being associated professionally in a society is all about community building. It's about this idea of a community of practice. We're all practicing something together, and the community aspect often gets ignored. And some of you might be thinking, well, why are we wasting time on all these introductions? But it's really about getting to know each other, getting to work with each other, and then figuring out how we can work with one another on other things. So I gave a quick example with Teresa, how we worked on a few things in REEN, and then she came over to JEET and did a fantastic job with the mentor reviewer program. So these kind of collaborations, long-term relationships, professional relationships that we want to form is really at the core of everything that ICTIEE is trying to do. And JEET is no different from all of that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about who are the stakeholders in the journal review process, right? So we're talking about reviewing for a journal. So there's authors, right? There's associate editors, there's readers of the journal, there's reviewers, potentially you folks. Then there's the engineering education research community as a whole, right? And if I were to look back and think about it, I've been an author with JEET. I have Krishna, myself and Scotty, we wrote a paper way back, I think 17, 18 timeframe. I've been an associate editor for JEET. I read papers that are published in JEET every now and then. I've definitely reviewed for JEET, and I'm part of the engineering education research community. So again, once again, that idea of this review not being something that you do in isolation. It's not just something that someone asks you to do and it's a burden and you just spend 2 hours doing reviewing a paper and you don't get anything out of it. That's not how you really want to look at reviews. It's you again being plugged into this broader community and perhaps playing all these different roles at some point or the other, and learning from each of those. Okay, Let's really get down to the core of it. Like, why? What is the why do we review, right? What is the purpose of reviewing? And in fact, maybe we could make it more interactive. I don't know, maybe this is not the best platform for it. I'll just keep talking. If any of the AEs think of something that we've not covered on the slides, please feel free to just interrupt and talk. All right, it's hard to manage the who's got their hand up and all that here. So just feel free to unmute and start talking. So that's how we'll do the interaction. So what is it that is the reason for doing these reviews? So there's quality control, obviously. So when you review for a journal, you are making sure that something that should not be published by the journal, something that is not of sufficient quality, is getting kept out. So that's the gatekeeping part of it. But then you're also making sure that things that should be published, that are high quality, actually do get through the review process and do make it into go from a manuscript to an actual publication. Another purpose for reviewing is to provide constructive feedback to authors so that they can improve their papers, right? It's very rare that a paper comes in and it's just a binary thing where it's either completely rejected, like we don't have anything to do with this paper, or it's so good that we accept it without any changes. Both of those are kind of rare situations. I mean, the rejections can be somewhat more common than completely accepting a paper just exactly as is. Most of the times we end up giving some feedback as reviewers on how the paper can be improved, how the quality can be improved, or maybe it's the writing, or whatever aspect of the paper that we feel can be improved. So it's providing this kind of constructive criticism. In fact, even if we're rejecting a paper, we ask our reviewers to give good reasons for why they feel the paper should not be accepted, and then also talk about what is it that can be done so that the paper can be submitted again, perhaps at some later point to JEET or to some other journal or some conference where we think it might be more appropriate. So this feedback to the author is one of the most important things that a reviewer can do. Another reason for reviewing is to develop the ability to review and critique. So in general, this is something that you take away as a reviewer. This is a skill that you are developing, and it's useful not just as a reviewer, but it becomes useful when you think about it from being an author, right? When you review papers, you, by coincidence or as a result of doing these reviews, become a better author as well, because you understand what are the things that make for good quality papers, and you can review and critique your own paper before you submit it for a publication at some venue, right? There's a potential to favorably impact the reputation of the journal. And this goes back to point number one to some extent, because we're talking about, again, maintaining quality, and that quality essentially in the long run is what creates a reputation for a journal. If you see a journal that publishes very low quality papers, then that's the reputation that it gets. And JEET, thankfully, is now known for publishing high quality papers in engineering education. So this is maybe a repeat of the previous point as well. So it develops the reviewer's ability to develop and self-evaluate their own work and those of their students, right? So you're likely an engineering educator yourself, so it's not just the research side of things, the papers that you are writing, but also the work of your students, the papers that you might be writing with your students, even simple assignments that the students might be turning in that are of the written nature. So you get better at doing all of these things, right? Potential to develop a supportive engineering education research community, right? So this is, again, what I was saying with this whole idea that this is not to be thought of as something you do in isolation, but it's part of a much bigger picture, and you are an important part of that bigger picture, right? And finally, it's an opportunity to mentor authors, right? So even without directly talking to them one-on-one, through the review, you can give useful tips and feedback for authors, not just for that particular paper that you're reviewing, but things that might they might find very useful throughout their life whenever they're working on other papers and other research. And oh yeah, there's one more last point here, which is an important one, an opportunity to learn from the authors, right? So quite often when I'm reviewing as well, I look at the paper, there's always something, if you have an open mind, there's always something to learn from any review that you do. Sometimes the paper might be of such poor quality that you might see clear things of, you might clearly see things that you don't want to do, right? So even with low quality papers, there's something you can take away, something you can learn, perhaps reflect on, well, do I do this? Do I write this way? Do I make these mistakes that I'm pointing out? There's always something you can learn. And obviously from the good papers, there's a lot that you can learn. You can look at how someone's presented their results, how someone set up their study, and use it, apply it in your own world, in your own research. Okay. So I'm gonna, let's see, what do I have on the next slide? Yeah, so let's go to the JEET website. I just wanted to show a couple of things, and while I'm switching, if there's anything the AEs want to add to whatever I've been saying, that would be most welcome. I guess I was too quick. So couple of things that I wanted to point out on the JEET website. One, hopefully you've created a login or are in the process of creating a login. You can certainly do that. And once you do that, well, even if you don't do it, even right now in this tab, I'm not even logged in. But if you go to submission and reviewer guidelines, you will see these two links over here. So this one is a JEET paper submission and reviewer guideline, and I have it open, so I'm just going to slide it to this other window. If I can get my mouse to do that. All right, there we go. So there's the reviewer guidelines, right? Hopefully you can see that, and I'm not going to go through all of these in detail. That would just take up too much of time, and again, my intent is not to just pour information here, but to try to make it so that you know what you're looking at. So these are there are two categories or three categories of papers that we typically see. You won't be reviewing the op-ed articles, so really it's just two categories that you will get to see as a reviewer, practice papers and research papers. And we describe to a certain extent what we're looking for in each of these. And same as a reviewer as well, you should be looking at these things as well. So practice papers tend to be more about something someone has done and wants to share with others as, look, this really worked well in my institution or in my classroom or wherever, and this is how I set it up, this is how I measured its effectiveness, and here are things that you can do. So it's you want to look at that paper from a perspective of, if a practicing engineering educator in that field were to read this paper, will this paper be useful for them? Right? That's the main underlying thing you want to look at. Can someone take away useful practices that are described in the paper and try to implement them on their end while being able to clearly understand why those practices are good or not, right? So that's essentially what a practice paper should be talking about. Research papers, and again, there is no hierarchy. It's not like the research paper is better than a practice paper or anything like that. It's just two different kinds of work that JEET publishes, right? Most of the papers we get are practice papers. Every now and then we get a research paper, which is looking more on the theoretical side. It's delving deeper into really trying to address a gap in the literature and trying to say, well, we don't really know a whole lot about this area, or there are these important things that need to be still discovered or verified, and here's a study that presents that research. They typically tend to have more in-depth literature review. They're more theoretical. They tend to have a strong theoretical framework or are creating a new theoretical framework, and so on. So there's some characteristics of research papers. And again, research should be strongly supported by evidence. It shouldn't be just an opinion, right? That I feel that doing teamwork in the classroom is great. Well, so what? I mean, most people know that now. So not those kind of papers, but really papers that are providing a good, I should say, foundation for other practice papers is how I would look at the research papers in JEET. Okay. So there's all these kind of submission guidelines and so on. I'm not going to go into details of that. But as a reviewer, you should generally be aware of these things to make sure that the guidelines are being met by the paper that you are reviewing. One thing I want to point out as potential reviewers, we have moved to a double-blind review system, which means essentially the authors are anonymous and the reviewers are anonymous. Reviewers have always been anonymous in JEET, like the authors don't know who has reviewed their papers. But as far as the authors being anonymized, that is something that we are not enforcing just yet. It's in the guidelines. We hope to completely transition to that at some point. But especially if you come in now as a reviewer, you'll see papers that have been in the system for a while. And back then, there was no requirement for anonymity on the part of the author. So you'll still occasionally see a paper that has that kind of information. And you can definitely talk to the associate editor, send them an email and say, well, it looks like the author identity is revealed here. Is that okay? And the AE can then say whether that's something that's not allowed because it's a newer submission, or that's allowed because it's an older submission. Okay. There's all kinds of checklists. Again, I'm not going to go through the details there. But there's also guidelines on what we want you to do as a reviewer. We want to make sure if you're submitting a document, you track changes. And I'm going to show you very quickly a couple of one review actually for JEET that showcases these things. And then there's these detailed guidelines for what we expect. Okay, so the timeline is important. Timely reviews are useful. If you do a great review, but you take 1 year to do it, that's actually not very useful for JEET, right? The authors are waiting. Again, you can just think of it from the author's perspective. They've submitted a paper. It takes a little time to make sure we do the plagiarism check, that we make sure that it's a good fit for the journal. So it passes through the hands of a few people before it actually comes to a reviewer. So it's already been in the system for a while. Then if you take a long time to do the review, a few months or even a year, then it's not going to be very useful. So we really would like to get timely reviews, 3 to 4 weeks. We're really hoping more like 3 weeks. And these are the guidelines. There's different criteria here. This document is something that's publicly available, so I don't plan to spend time going through each of these, bullets or these numbered items. You can certainly take a look on your own time and let me know if you have any questions about any of this. So I'll switch screens here just to show a couple more things. Let's see, where's my? So I mentioned that you might go ahead and actually edit a document, and here's an example of a reviewer who has done just that. So they've gone in and they actually, if you look at the stuff in red, this is stuff that they ended up, I think, adding or making changes. So these are the tracked changes to a paper that was submitted. In addition to these, this particular reviewer, I'm gonna try to find that window as well. Actually, yeah, I'll probably have to open it. So this particular reviewer also gave comments, and I'm not sure if this is the same paper or not, but these are reasonably detailed comments that the reviewer has given. Okay, so this is what we're really expecting, something that is of this kind of length and has these kind of details. As you can see, they've clearly, they've summarized what the paper is doing, and then they have pointed out particular things that they feel should be fixed. This is a good review. I've seen better, I've seen worse, but I would say this is definitely something that is very much acceptable in terms of what we hope for from the typical review for JEET. Right. So Krishna, I don't know if they have the ability to type in their questions if anyone's monitoring the chat.
They can type in questions, and there's a question already. Can you talk something about rubrics? I think you skipped some of those sections on the review. It might help to just go over the titles of those sections that you had for review,
okay,
right?
Sure.
You can read, but I think they're talking about, somebody asking about rubrics and stuff like that. So go ahead and go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so one could just look at it. Sure, I can spend a few minutes on this. So these are essentially common things that we want you to be looking at. Now, obviously, there's going to be some more details to this, and it varies from paper to paper, but generally speaking, we want you at a high level to think about what is the contribution. Can you, as a reviewer, when you look at the paper, easily identify what is the paper really talking about? What is the one thing that someone reading this paper is going to take away from it, right? If there isn't anything, right? If you can't find anything that you see, well, I don't really understand what the main takeaway is, well, that's something you can give feedback about. Maybe it's not clear. Maybe they don't have a clear purpose of the study at all. Maybe someone just wrote it up and submitted it. So that's possible, right? So you could have between 1 to 5, depending on how clear you think the contribution is, how important the contribution is as well, right? So I think it's fairly straightforward. I'm happy to elaborate if anyone has questions. The next point is contextualization. Consider how the study has been grounded in theory and has been integrated into the existing literature. Unfortunately, a lot of times what happens, and I'll be the first to say I've done this myself, especially initially, I would get interested in a particular thing I was doing in the classroom. I would try to get some data, and then I would start writing the paper. And as I was writing the paper, then I would try to see, well, what's the related literature to this? Okay, that's more common than it should be. Ideally, people should have looked at the literature first. That should have been what pointed them to do the thing that they're doing, right? And so when you look at a paper, you should be trying to see that. Does the literature review seem to drive the paper? Does it make sense? Or is it just someone sat down and said, well, I need 10 references, so I'm just going to have one line each about some papers that are remotely related or something like that. So try to identify that, try to see how well is the current work contextualized. And the reason for that is really for the readers to understand why this work was done. And it goes back to point number 1, which is what is the main takeaway, right? What are they trying to do? And then how does the literature support why they are trying to do what they're trying to do, right? So if they've clearly identified that, yeah, this is the literature that's identifying this particular gap, this is not known yet, and that's why, based on the literature, we undertook this study. So that kind of contextualization. And once they get their results, they should be tying that back as well. So there should be later on, not just in the lit review, but towards the end of the paper in a discussion section or in the conclusions, they should be tying back to what is known about this problem in the literature and how they have advanced knowledge in that field, if it's a theory paper, or how well they've contextualized the practice that they're doing, right? So hopefully that's clear as well. Scientific rigor is, again, it's looking at the study itself. You know, there are some tenets of scientific research, like can someone repeat this? Can they replicate these results? Are the conditions clearly laid out? So, you know, just the rigor of the scientific method, I would say. So if I were to just read from here, is the research method approach used to determine the intervention appropriate for the study? And that's an important point, especially when it comes to human subjects research. Maybe you want to find out why someone is doing something, and all you have done in terms of the experiment is you know, gather data on what has been done. So if you look at just the what in terms of the data that you've gathered, but your original research question was, why are people doing the things that they're doing? That's a mismatch, right? And I bring that example up because that's a very common one. People often want to do some very exciting research, and they end up gathering data that really does not answer that question. And so you, as a reviewer, you should be thinking about those things. Does this make sense, the study that they have set up? Is the research that they have done you know, appropriate in terms of its integrity, its quality? Simple things like, if you're trying to see a trend, have they looked at enough people to spot a trend. If you just talk to 2 people and say, well, this is a new trend that I'm observing, that's really not going to be useful. You need a certain N, as they say, in order to say that something is actually even statistically significant, and so on. So that's as far as the scientific rigor. There's more to it, of course, but these are some of the basic things, like does the methodology agree? Is the methodology airtight, as in are there big holes? And there can be many examples for all of this, but I'll try to keep it quick. Clarity and quality. This is also one of the big issues that we see in JEET quite often, which is just the writing quality. And it's not just the usage of the right words or grammar issues, which we do see quite a bit, but also overall writing. And that's why we start with things like, is the submission well organized, right? What is the logical flow? Do they set things up very clearly, as in, this is the problem I'm trying to work on, this is why I'm trying to work on this problem, this is how I have set up the study to find the answer to the question that I'm asking, this is what I found, and this is what it means, right? So all of these things should have a clear flow. And many times the reason why that flow is missing is because people do a backward study. They've gathered some data, and they start with that data, and then they try to write the other sections. So in the actual chronology of how the work was done, it's backwards, and that shows up when you see a submission like that. Is the quality and clarity of writing an acceptable standard, right? This goes back to simple grammar things. So if the writing is so poor that it's distracting, right, that they've done good work, you can see that from the results, but they've written it so poorly that it's just very hard to take anything away from the paper. So again, once again, we're thinking about, when someone reads this paper, what do they get out of it? And if they're not getting anything out of it because it's just poorly written, then it's our job as a reviewer to give that feedback, perhaps even help them out a little bit, to say, what I typically do is, I will take, if it's a 6-page paper, for example, I'll take page 1 and I'll fix all the grammar issues in page 1 and say, look, this is how you need to do it. Okay, so if you can do it yourself, great. If not, get some help and rewrite the other 5 pages in order to meet this quality standard. And sometimes authors aren't able to do it, which is very unfortunate. But most of the times, the reviewers, the associate editors, we as a community, if the paper is really good, we try to make sure that we give them all the help that they need in order to improve the clarity and quality of the writing. So yeah, and then there's a couple of things that are, as I was showing you the comments in the comments box with the review that you can put in. And that's as far as the rubric is concerned. I'll pause again, see if there's follow-up questions to this.
Yeah, good. So let's see, there's some other questions. Is there any particular number of reference papers required?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I typically don't like to put a number to things like that, because it should really come organically. Just looking at a paper that's come in, I would say if there's fewer than 10 references in a 6-page paper, then I get a little suspicious, right? And again, it's just a matter of checking to see if those references make sense. Are they really providing the context that we need to understand what the work was? Sometimes you don't need a whole lot. Maybe it's a very straightforward thing that they have done. 10 papers or even 9 papers might be sufficient, right? Are they the right 9 papers? That's kind of more important. Just having 25 references also, on the other hand, doesn't make it like a sufficient number of references if they're tangential or not well incorporated into the lit review and later sections. So yeah, you can take away the number 10 if you want, but with all these caveats.
Okay, so somebody else is asking about the rubrics. They should read the, Dr. Muibal, read the document that SOM has in front, and I think it will answer all your questions about rubrics and so on. Okay, so
yeah, you can download it from the JEET website. Absolutely, public.
does JEET encourage survey papers?
Yes, yeah, yeah, it's kind of hard to say which category that would fall in, but yeah, we do. Again, the bigger picture is whether the paper is making a contribution or not, right? How is it going to help the readership of JEET is pretty much the only thing that I look for as a co-editor-in-chief. So if it's more of a survey without, it's more of an opinion kind of a survey, then we would think of that as an op-ed. And you could submit it, but you could let us know in advance that you're trying to do this, and we can evaluate whether that's something we'd like to publish or not. Yeah, that's what I need to say about survey.
I mean, you might want to answer this one. How is similarity being checked? That's a plagiarism check. You might want to mention the process.
Yeah, plagiarism check is not something the reviewer really needs to worry about as such, because we do it at our end using Turnitin. So we get a report generated, and then there's a team of associate editors and others who look at that similarity index and make a determination on what is okay and what is not. And quite, I'll say one more thing about it. The most common feedback that I have given to authors when I've seen issues with plagiarism is where they have actually cited something, but then they have done a copy and paste of multiple sentences. That's a very common issue that we see in the paper submitted to JEET. And I give feedback about what is a block quote, and when should you be directly quoting from a paper and how to do that, versus reading that paper, trying to understand what is it that is relevant to the work that you are presenting, and then putting it in your own words in that context, right? It's not just a matter of taking 3 sentences and rewriting them in your own words. It's really thinking about, well, what bearing does this work have on the work that I am doing? And that's the reason why you're writing it in your own words, not just because it will be flagged with the plagiarism check.
Okay, we need about 5 minutes to talk about ICTIE, Keith, and I think Anita is here. She's also associate editor, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I wasn't
Anita,
sure.
You want to say hello to everybody, Anita? Say hello. She's part of the ICTIE team.
Yeah, hi to everyone. Hope you are good, Professor Soham.
Yep, doing
The
well.
session was really going good. Being a silent observer of all these things. Hello all. Good evening to everyone. I'm Anita from Tyagarajar College of Engineering, Madurai, and I'm on board of the JEET team from 2020. And I have done 2 workshops on engineering education by ICTIEE and have been a part of mentor-mentee program as well. And whatever the Professor Soham was mentioning about that mentor-mentee programs, so from those programs we have learned a lot. Even it was the first time that I wrote a 1-page review for a journal. Otherwise, my reviews would be of 10 to 15 sentences. So the first time I wrote a 1 page of review. So the experience was great. I hope this session would be of greater benefit to the potential reviewers of JEET and as well as ICTIEE 2022 launched in January. And as an associate editor of JEET, I would like to invite you all potential reviewers for giving a great review on JEET papers as well as ICTIEE 2022 papers as well. We have the quality of the papers coming to JEET are increasing. We are seeing an increase in the quality as well, and the numbers also getting higher. So we need more number of prospective reviewers for JEET, and I would like to have you all in that list. Thank you, Professor Saham. Thank you, Professor Krishna.
Thank you, Anita. You have what, 5 minutes or so more, or whatever?
Yeah, I can wrap it up in 5 easily. Yeah. So there's just 2 other things I wanted to talk about, the essential nuts and bolts. So as a reviewer, you are going to see on the left-hand side on the screen, I have a screenshot of an email that I received. I just assigned myself as a reviewer yesterday in preparation for today's talk, so I could show you this. So it could very easily be blocked by your spam detector for your email client, whatever it is. So make sure when you, well, try to add JEET to the safe list as a reviewer, because you'll otherwise miss the invitations that are generated from the website, because this is how they look like. Okay, so typically that's going to be what it looks like. It clearly has a due date for the review. So I assigned this yesterday, so it's due on July 8th. So it gives me a few days to do the review. On the right hand side is a screenshot of what it looks like when you go to the JEET website, when you click one of these links on confirming. So this is where you click to say will do the review or will not do the review. For whatever reason, if you're unable to do the review, you can click on the right. That will generate an email letting us know that you have not accepted the review. If you click on this one on the left, it will generate an email telling us that you have accepted the review. So once you've accepted the review, the hope is that you will get it done in the given time frame. Okay, so just wanted to show you what it looks like on the actual JEET website, and I might as well maybe just go there very quickly and show you. So am I logged in? Yeah, so let me go to that main screen. If I go to user, I'm in the editor mode right now, but if I go to user and reviewer, it shows one active over here. And when I click on that, this is the screen for which I showed you the screenshot. If I click on will do the review, right, it's generating this email. I send this email, I'm sending it to myself at this point, right? And then I have the option of going through the next steps. So the steps are clearly laid out. I can access the manuscript. So this part might not be so clear that this is something that you can download. So this is the actual paper that was submitted. So you download the paper, and as I showed you earlier, you can edit the paper itself and upload that edited document using this. You can write your comments. Typically what I would do is I would do it in a Word document, do my complete review, put all my comments there, and then copy them and put them into the actual comment box, which is obtained from here. This part here is just saying whether you have a conflict of interest or not. And then once you're done, reviewing the paper, you pick one of the options here. I guess it's not letting me choose one because maybe I haven't done the other things. So once I have, well, let's see. Very quickly, let me try to put something in here. No, still won't let me do it. I don't know if that's a bug in the system or whether it expects me to do something before I actually, but here's where you can give a recommendation on whether to accept the paper, require minor changes, require major changes, or decline the paper. So you get a say as a reviewer on what should be done for this paper, and you have an opportunity to give reasons for why you think that this is what needs to be done, right? So just one last thing I want to show or talk about is the mentored reviewer program. So we've mentioned this a number of times now, so there's not really a whole lot left to really talk about it. But broadly speaking, these were the reasons for running the mentored reviewer program. It's a pretty intense program. You're assigned a mentor who is typically an associate editor, and then with that mentor, you do 2 rounds of reviews, and we discuss those reviews. We look at what's good about a certain review, what's not good, what can be improved. And it is, as I said earlier, Teresa is the one who ran our first round, and she's volunteered to run the second round of the program as well. This program is likely to start in August, I believe. Teresa, let me know if that's incorrect. Our goal is to start it in August. And I will leave it at that. So Krishna, back to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Som. Very, very useful. A couple of quick questions to you, and then we'll, Keith and I and Anita will talk about ICTIE. The couple of questions I think Rohit is asking, can we put in place a mechanism that sends a mail to the reviewers from JEET alerting the reviewer that the allocation of paper has been done? So I guess that's something to
I will make a quick comment on that. That's the email that you saw that I was showing a screenshot of. And I instruct all the associate editors to reach out to the reviewers through their mail client. So what happens is, because these emails are likely to get into the spam, we reach out in. So most of the associate editors assign reviewers to people either that they know or are from the reviewer pool. So if you know someone, I tell the associate editors, reach out to them on WhatsApp, or if you're in the same institution, just talk to them in person and remind them that, you know, I've assigned you a paper for review, so they don't miss it. So that email is generated, yeah. And
that's what you mean by community, building a community where you know the people.
Yeah, or get to know them, right? I also want to, while we're on the topic of that email, quickly want to say we do send out acknowledgement emails for every review that is done. So whenever you do a single review, you will get official acknowledgement from JEET that you have completed the review. So if that's of use to you, that's something that we do.
Okay. Sanjeev Kavle has another question for you, Som. Are we collecting change summary note for those articles which are submitted after revisions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So depending on how extensive the revisions are, the associate editor usually asks for a document. So two documents. One, obviously the updated manuscript with the changes. Either the changes are tracked there, or a second document needs to be provided by the authors to explain what are the changes that they made. And that's true especially for the more significant changes, where we might actually go back to a second round of review. Many a times the associate editor can just look at the changes that have been made and then make a decision without a second round. But yeah, sometimes we have to do a round two.
Okay, I've taken over the screen just to get you into the ICTIE mode for a few minutes.
Yep.
So there was a quick question there at the end about about how to help authors publish, and that's relevant to the ICTIE also. And so in a couple of weeks, I think we will be organizing a webinar on how to publish papers. Okay, so keep tuned on that one, because one of you did have that as a question comment. This is the website for ICTIE 2020, which many of you are familiar with. You know about ICTIE, which is the annual conference. I think this is not the 9th year that we are doing this conference. Imagine, wow, we started this in 2014 at Hubli, and now this is the 9th year that we are doing this conference. And the conference itself is in 7th, 8th, 9th January of 2020. But the call for papers has gone out, and you might have seen it already. So this is the, if you go to iuce.org, and then on that you go to the annual events, and you'll see, you're going to get to this this particular page, and then you will see all the details about ICTIE, the advisory committee, Dr. Deepak Vaikar, who's here actually with us today, and a few others, and then we have conference conveners and coaches and so on. Most importantly, we have the conference tracks that are here, and my email to all of you, I did ask you to tell us which track you would like to participate in. So I'll be collecting all that information and getting back to you. So this is an opportunity for you to be an active part, not only as a reviewer of JEET, but also be active in reviewing the ICTIE papers, as well as in the planning and being on the panel, or the as a co-chairs of some of these sessions that will be coming up in ICTIE 2020. And some of the papers, not all the papers that are submitted to JEET, submitted to ICTIE, will be published in JEET, and some others will be sub-published in a non Scopus index, but a regular conference proceedings as well as part of the conference. So the review process will be as rigorous as in JEET, and that's why we would like all of you to be involved in both JEET as well as ICTIE, so that we're having a broad base of reviewers available for all of us. So Keith, do you want to make any few comments there at this point that we discussed earlier?
Hello everyone. I think sir has covered most of the stuff. I think only thing is since Som sir was mentioning about double blind review, and we have already implemented double blind review for our conference. So this time all the papers will be double blind reviewed, and and we are expecting more and more reviewers for that factor itself, because we do not want to assign too many, some people with too many papers. So we want more and more reviewers who can do a quality review, and I feel that this is the right steps towards that. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Anita, you want to add anything? You're also on the committee.
Yeah. I see here everybody not only as quality reviewers, but also the prospective authors of the papers. So I'd like to request everyone to consider these rubric, as Professor Soham said, to prepare your own papers also and submit it to ICTIE 2022. And so the process, please spread this word to you and be a part of ICTIE. Thank you.
Okay, so full submission is required, no abstract this time. Full paper submission by August 31st, 2021. So please spread the word among your colleagues and friends in your institution as well to get their papers ready. The double review notification will be November 5th, calendar ready December 5th, author registration December 15th. So keep all these in mind and hurry up and do that. And for all of you, there are about 100 of you who have joined today as who might already be part of reviewer of JEET, but there may be others who may never have done review for JEET. So we are going to start the process in this way, okay? After we are done with today's meeting, which will be about 2-3 minutes, we will work out a process to assign to each one of you. So this is like the entrance qualification for you to become a JEET reviewer is for you to review one existing paper that has been submitted to JEET already, okay? So we'll have a process by which you will go through whatever Soham Sohani has shown, process to get into the JEET website, and you'll be assigned a paper that is in the process of review but waiting for it to complete it. So you'll be assigned a paper and you'll have 3 weeks to review that paper. So that will be our way of assessing whether we would like to invite you to be an actual reviewer for JEET, because we do need good quality reviewers. So you would have to go through that hurdle, that gate, before we can confirm you as a JEET reviewer. So please take that seriously, and within a week or so we'll have a process for doing that, and you'll have 3 weeks to submit the review. So hopefully all 100 of you will get through that, because it's an exciting way to do that. We do have a beautiful certificate that Keith had shown me for IEEE. We'll use that as a template for every one of the reviewers, and I think that would make a nice piece for you to put in your own file and for your resume. So we'll definitely do appreciate all the work that reviewers put in, because we know it is a lot of hard work. And as on behalf of ICTIE and JEET, I want to express my gratitude to all the reviewers, to all the associate editors, and Soham Sohani for being a joint chief editor, because it's work. It's a lot of work. So thank you for doing that. And any final comments from you, Soham?
Oh, it's been a pleasure, and if you could share the recording with us, that'd be great. We can put it up on the JEET website.
We will do that. We will do that. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and Jai Ho.
Thank you.